Did you hear? One of the workers threw a rock at Massa Jones. So yesterday, as I was driving back from Las Vegas, because you know what a party animal I am. No, it was to meet somebody. Heard the news about the attempted assassination, yada, yada, yada. So, first thing I want to say is I don't give a shit about politicians being, like, attempts on their lives. Of the top 7 billion people I care about having an attempt on their lives, nobody in Congress or in the White House is ever going to be in the top 7 billion. Like, there are 7 billion people minding their own business and trying to live their lives in the world and not involved in the, for example, slaughter of brown people on the other side of the world. None of them are in Congress in either party. None of them are in political power. So the first thing is I don't give a crap when that happens. I do give a crap about the people who are injured. Apparently 2 are injured and 1 died. I don't know anything about them. So I do, I would like to assume that those were decent people who meant well, even if they were totally statists, and, I actually care about them getting hit and killed. So, the story. Now, the story, I'm not here to, tell you what I think of the factual reality, although already it's pretty damn weird. The shooter, so they say they know who the shooter was, and he was laying on top of a building with a rifle out in the open, and some people are saying everybody was seeing him going, there he is. So we either have to believe that the Secret Service just sucks at their job. The first thing to protect anybody, not just the president, but anybody. If you're a bodyguard and you think your client is in danger, you look at the rooftops and you look at windows and you look at... So the idea that Secret Service was there and there was this guy lying there with a rifle in the open and then taking shots. And then immediately they knew he was there and where it was coming from and shot him and killed him. So already the story's really real. And by the way, I literally seen a BlackRock commercial, I kid you not, that has somebody who looks exactly like the shooter in it from the suburbs around Pittsburgh. So... is it suspicious as hell? Yes. Have I looked into it at all? No, because I don't really give a crap. What I care about is the mentality of the people and what they understand, because either they think they're beholden to a ruling class, in which case they're doomed no matter who's on the throne, or they figure out they own themselves and they stop bowing to any ruling class, and then none of this drama and ridiculousness matters. However, the reason I wanted to talk about it at all is not because the event actually matters at all in the long run, because it doesn't, but how people react to it and what they think about it and what they assume about it is indicative of how people think and how indoctrinated they are. And so there is the possibility every once in a while that some unstable twit on his own is going to do something. And so that sort of thing can happen. And the people who think, well, it definitely can't be that. Well, it could be. I mean, I'm not saying given the facts in this case, that looks very likely, or given the facts in any case, that looks all that likely. But it's a thing that can happen. Unstable people can murder other people on their own. But if you can't fathom the possibility, and you can't get into the minds of slavesmiths enough to even imagine, could this be something else with a political agenda, then you're just trying to be gullible. You're trying to be dense. Because you can look at fiction, look at House of the Dragon, or just or Game of Thrones, or a million other things, V for Vendetta, or Braveheart. The tactics have been around forever. The fact that it's called false flag literally came from ships having flags, and other people would look and go, they're bearing the flag of King whatever the frig, and we saw them do this horrible thing. Oh, well, it turns out that was King whatever the other frig from a different place flying that flag and doing something bad so the people would then turn against him. That's been around for centuries, if not millennia. Those tactics, those manipulations, well, if we look like this, well, if this bad thing happens, of course they're going to assume that that person they don't like did it, and then we'll rile up this group against that group. And if you don't think the U.S. government does such a thing, like I often recommend, read Operation Northwoods, read the declassified documents, and you can see in their own words how these psychopaths think. And they say things like, yeah, casualty lists in newspapers will cause a helpful wave of national indignation. In other words, if they think a bunch of innocent people died, that'll help us out with our warmongering agenda. That's signed off on by the top brass at the Pentagon. So if you think they don't think in those terms, and that those in power haven't thought in those terms for hundreds and hundreds of years, then you're just intentionally oblivious. This isn't a secret. And you even see it in a bunch of plots in fictional movies. Like, yeah, bad people can plan ahead too. And that's why it's so silly when people go, oh, I think it's a conspiracy theory. Yeah, because bad people would never conspire. Like, good people plan ahead and they work together for their goals. Are you under the impression that bad people just won't plan ahead to do bad things? No, you can't plan ahead for bad things. You can only plan ahead for good things. So the entire use of conspiracy theory as an insult, as if, oh, bad people would never conspire. Like, how big of an idiot do you have to be to think that? Now, about this particular event yesterday, I don't really give a crap. I don't give a crap what you think happened, and I don't give a crap what actually happened. In the long run, makes no stinging difference to me. It does make a difference to me how people think and how easy it is for them to fall for Slavesmith BS. So when I got a text from somebody we know that said, hey, did you hear that there was just this shooting over there? And I knew none of the details. I mean, I still know none of the details. I know what they're saying happened, but it's okay. Maybe some of that is what happened. I don't freaking know, and I don't freaking care. But my immediate thought, having written Jones Plantation, and so been in the mind of the Slavesmiths and the games they play, and ages ago having written a book called How to Be a Successful Tyrant, I immediately thought, well, what are the options? Before knowing anything about the facts, what are some plausible reasons such a thing can happen? One is some bonkers person lost their shit and is like, oh, I'm going to fix the world by killing this guy. Which, as much as I don't give a crap about politicians, knocking them off doesn't help either, because they are never the problem in and of themselves. Even if they're evil warmongering psychos who deserve it, it still doesn't fix the problem to shoot them, because, like I was just talking about, ideas are bulletproof, including shitty ideas. And as long as people believe in authoritarianism, all the way knocking off one ruling class is just going to result in another ruling class being put up, as long as the people believe in the legitimacy of political authority and the law, as in scribbles of political parasites. So it's not a solution, but I want people to get more and more aware of how the games work. So when they see something, their first thought is, well, what are some possible things that can make this sort of thing happen? One is some psycho lost his crap. Now, it is going to be funny to see, because the political left has just, constantly been, Trump is just a horrible dictator, and if he gets in, he's going to, imprison all his critics and just sort of ridiculous, over-the-top complaints. Now, I have plenty of complaints against Trump because he is absolutely an authoritarian collectivist, doesn't believe in freedom, doesn't even believe in the Constitution, not even the lower level of statism. But the left, they can't complain about the actual things that Trump deserves to be condemned for, because they're guilty of every single one of the same things. The warmongering, the collectivism, the police state crap. And look at Biden's record. He's a bootlicking, police state supporting authoritarian psycho, and has been for many, 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 many years as a career parasite. So you can't go, oh, that Trump, he's too much for authoritarian power, and yeah, so's your guy. So they have to go, he's a racist, and make up these stupid complaints because the things he should be condemned for apply exactly the same to all the Democrats that they vote for. So they have to go, and he's this, and he's that, and I'm going to find stupid, irrelevant things to whine about. Like, oh, and now he's a convicted felon. In and of itself, that means absolutely nothing. There are tons and tons of convicted felons who never threatened and harmed anybody. They just disobeyed some stupid politician's scribble. Like, there's lots of felons whose horrible crime against humanity was like smoking the wrong plant on one of the pieces of dirt where the ruling class says, you're not allowed to do that or we cage you. Okay, so blame the victim, demonize the victim for being caged for doing something nonviolent, and then he's a felon. And so the left harping on Trump's a felon for what? 34 counts of what? Of filing paperwork that made it look like a certain kind of payment was actually a slightly different kind of payment. Really? That's your best example of what an evil guy, like one of the few things he did that was like victimless and wasn't defrauding somebody and wasn't advocating authoritarian violence. So the fact that they whine about that is laughable. But the moment I heard the story yesterday, I thought, okay, from the mind of slavesmiths who don't give a crap about anybody, including their own puppets, what are some possible motivations for something like this to have happened? Now, one of the things that very deliberately was included in Jones Plantation, the novel and the movie, is that Mr. Smith, the slavesmith, he's in charge of everything. He owns everything. He controls everything, including the politicians, including Jones and Johnson. He is above them in intellect and manipulation and the leverage he gets on them. Again, the novel gets into that a little bit more than would fit in a movie, but it's obviously in both. So even though it's technically Mr. Jones's plantation, very quickly everybody knows that Mr. Smith is the one in charge, and that's the reality. So these political puppets, even though they pretend Trump is the leader of the... No, Trump is the puppet under a bunch of people, most of whose names you don't know, and a bunch of financial interests whose ass he kisses exactly the same as Biden did, and Bush, and Obama, and the other Bush, and Clinton. Go back as far as you want. They all kiss the ass of the financial interests, the warmongers, the banking cartels, and all that stuff. He's an ass kisser. He doesn't really have any power of his own, which is one thing that Trumpites just don't comprehend. When you understand the game going on and you see something like that happen, like if you're watching Jones Plantation and you're getting near the end and something else horrible happens, hopefully by then your brain is like, is that what it looked like, or is something devious going on? People who understand history and understand how these psychopaths function should hear a story like that and immediately go, huh. Well, I mean, there's some possibility that some, mentally unstable person on their own, probably on antidepressants, because golly gee, that seems to be the case like every single time. Maybe even MK Ultra, but one person flipped out and tried to kill somebody. That is a possibility. How big a possibility? Maybe not very big, but it's a thing that can happen. Every once in a while, that happens. But if you understand how these games work and have worked for centuries, you might have thoughts like I did, which is, well, let's see. Who could milk this and benefit from this? Now, obviously, the picture of Trump there with blood and Secret Service trying to hold him down, but no, I'm brave and fighting the blah, blah, blah. Well, there's an awesome political propaganda point. So if you fake it, you have actually good snipers, you kill a couple spectators because we don't give a shit about them if you're Slavesmith. And then you fake it and make it look like he got hit in the ear or whatever. And by the way, I'm not at all saying this happened. I'm saying before I know any of the facts, I'm well aware of, okay, so that side of the propaganda machine can totally benefit from it. And by the way, it is totally benefiting from it right stinking now, regardless of what the actual cause was. We can make him look like this brave hero who's standing up for America. He didn't give a crap about you any more than he did 2 days ago, which was absolutely zero. He does not give a crap what happens to you. Trump doesn't care about you or America or freedom. He cares about Trump and Trump and Trump and Trump and also Trump. So that side can benefit from the propaganda of make him look like a martyr, not quite all the way a martyr, because you have to be dead to actually be a martyr, but in the direction of a martyr to look what he's standing up against and look what our enemies are doing. So that's one obvious reason to do a stunt like that, a motivation to do a stunt like that. Again, I'm not saying which one I think it was. I don't even know which one it was. I haven't bothered to look into it. Probably never will, because I don't give a shit. But I do give a shit whether people can comprehend how these things function. So one is people pushing for the political right can go, we're going to make him look like a hero and he survived, so we're going to sort of fake this, kill or wound a couple civilians because we don't give a crap about them, and play this game and go rah, rah, rah. On the other side, I could totally see people going, nobody's going to vote for Biden. Like, if he runs, he's a total mess, such that half the party is now, can you get him off the ticket? He's such an embarrassment. How the hell are we supposed to win with that demented old clown as our choice? And so I could totally see people on that side going, well, if we have to replace somebody at the last minute and run him against Trump, that's going to be a tough run. But if we knock off Trump and then they have to replace him at the same time, like, we might have a chance, because we're not going to win with this demented old clown. That's, like, we're doomed. So that side also has a motivation to make a stunt like this happen. And if you're thinking, oh, you think they would do that? If you don't think they'd do that, you're just a gullible idiot. Read a stinking history book. This is, people in power have done these things and gotten caught over and over and over again for hundreds of years. I can't believe, literally the guy is in a BlackRock commercial for BlackRock, and it's being posted and people keep trying to take it down. It was like a commercial for somebody running for something, but it was sponsored by BlackRock, and there's the guy, the shooter, sitting there, just very distinctive face. It's like, that sure looks like him, and it's suburbs of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where this thing happened. And so, like, there he is, and they keep trying to take it down, and other people post mirrors of it, and like, this is a little bit weird that this guy was wearing like this militia shirt, so not even left-wing, apparently, but in a BlackRock commercial. It's like, And if you say MK Ultra, people think, crazy conspiracy theorist. Do you know why people say the phrase MK Ultra? Because the government had a program called MK Ultra. It's named that because that was the program. Now, a bunch of the documents were destroyed before they got out. A bunch of the other documents came out. That's a program they did. That is indisputable. You can look it up on Wikipedia and stuff. Like, MK Ultra was a thing. Now, we probably know about this much of it because the rest of it, that all got shredded and destroyed. But it was a thing. People talk about MK Ultra because MK Ultra was a thing. And so if you're like, you believe in that? Yeah, when the people who do it release documents that said, we totally did this, yes, I believe they totally did that, because they said they did. So the people who actively go, well, that's just silly, when the perpetrators release the document showing it, like, what else do you need? It's like having somebody say, I committed murder and I did this, and here's a video of me doing the murder. And you're like, you think they conspired to do that? Same thing with Northwoods. The Operation Northwoods documents, that's them explaining their mentality and how they are perfectly willing to terrorize or kill Americans, including on U.S. soil, to support their warmongering efforts. In that case, they were trying to start a war with Cuba. And apparently JFK is the one who got in the way, and then, what happened to him? I forget. Some crazy lone gunman. So if you know these people on paper admit that they're willing to murder innocent people to forward their warmongering agenda, which would result in lots more people being murdered, to then say, well, it's crazy that those people would, like, shoot a president just because he got in the way of their plan to kill lots of innocent people. Like, they've already admitted, openly describing, well, they weren't trying to do it openly, but now it's declassified. They described trying to kill innocent people to support the warmongering agenda when there's no threat. Make them look like the false flag thing of make it look like Castro is this big threat to the U.S. Do nasty things, blame him, start a war, which is going to kill a bunch of innocent people. The idea that the people who would do that, and in their words described a whole bunch of different ways to do that, oh, but they'd never kill a president. If you think that, you're just an idiot and you're trying to be an idiot. That's like willful ignorance. Like, I'm trying really hard to not look at something that is going to be uncomfortable. So if you think, oh, they would never do that, you read a history book. It's like all they ever do, literally, and they get caught over and over again around the world through all of history. It isn't just a U.S. government thing, though they very much have that mentality, and you can see it, and they get caught doing it, and then people are like, well, okay, yeah, sure, the CIA did that a while ago, but since then they got good. Really? So I think it's worth, when you hear a story like this, I think it's worth putting yourself in the position of the slavesmiths. All right, imagine you're just a power-happy sociopath. You don't give a crap about human life, which is true of the people at the top, bottom, depending on how you look at it. The complete psychos, the Mr. Smiths in the real world, the slavesmiths. Put yourself in their position and go, what might this move have been designed to do? It's like playing chess. If somebody goes, oh, he moved his bishop over there, what's he planning on? He wasn't just going for a stroll. He put his bishop there because he thinks, if he traps this and I can't move that way, then like he's planning something. Like when you're playing chess against somebody, unless they have no idea what they're doing, they're planning something. So if you see a move and you go, okay, I wonder what that was designed to do. I would encourage all of you to do that every time you see any story in the newspaper, whether it's an assassination attempt or anything else. Think, who does that move benefit? And who are the different parties that, like, maybe they could use it to give this appearance and accomplish this, or maybe they could use it to do this. Maybe just some psycho did it because he's mentally unbalanced. Who are the possible suspects? Now, anybody who knows how investigation works and has ever thought about it, or even just like watched a murder mystery on TV, one of the things is motive, means motive and opportunity. Motive. Does somebody get something out of what just happened? Let's think about them. What would he gain? What would they gain? What would he gain? If you're already incapable of doing that because something was just so horrible, like 2 buildings falling down, 3,000 people dying, well, now I can't even think about that. I can't even think who benefited from that. Then they're going to do it more. Because that's how slavesmiths think. We're going to do something so evil that you're not even going to be able to consider the possibility that we did it. You're going to think, scary Arabs on the other side of the world. Or some crazy people, whatever. Anything other than the people who actually benefited from it, planning it and carrying it out, because it can't be that. There's a reason that pretty much the most important line in Jones Plantation, if you ask me, is if you want to wield real power, you must be willing to do what most consider unthinkable. And the power behind that is if most people can't imagine doing something that heinous themselves, they also can't imagine other people. The people on TV who say how much they care about us, they can't imagine those people being at least complicit, if not directly involved, in heinous atrocities. And if you can't comprehend that possibility, you're just a crappy investigator. If you don't start with who had something to gain, if you can't start there and say, well, they would gain, and they might gain, and they could have a propaganda advantage from this, and you just start with, who am I too scared to consider as somebody who might do this? All right, you're never going to know the truth. If you're going to know the truth, first you have to want to know the truth. And if you want to know the truth, then you start objectively looking at it and go, okay, who would benefit from this happening? Let's consider which one of those is likely, which one of those had the means, motive, opportunity. Golly gee, Secret Service sitting there with their rifles, looking in the direction of the shooter, through a rifle scope, like this, and then golly, the guy takes a shot, and then they shoot him. Well, there's an opportunity for you. If you can say, hey, that guy over there, wait until he fires a couple times. Now, I don't know if that's what happened, But I'm able to consider that. How many people aren't able to consider that because they see the conclusion and the conclusion is too scary for them, and they rule out possibilities not based on evidence or logic or motivation, but just based on, I don't want to have to think about that. The slavesmiths are counting on you to be too scared to think about some of the evil shit they would do. And they will keep doing it if it keeps working. And if people keep falling for it, it will keep working, and so it will keep happening. So don't stink and fall for that shit, and learn to actually think. And start from the objective point of, all right, what's the evidence, and who had a motivation, who had the means, who had the opportunity. Keep an open mind until you actually have a reason to rule out something and narrow it down to what you think happened. In this case, I don't know, I don't stink and know, I don't stink and care. For that matter, I do care how susceptible people are in general to fear-mongering and false flags and propaganda and everything under the sun. If you suddenly see Republicans come out and go, maybe it is time for us to ban semi-auto, well, then I'll have a pretty good guess who did it and why. And if you're like, they would never do that, that's why they will do it, because they're counting on you to be too scared to consider the possibility. And that's exactly a major part of their focus and their reasoning. Well, if we do this little thing, people might suspect it was us. If we do this drastic thing, most people will be too scared to consider the possibility that the ones who are there to protect and serve are the ones doing it. And a lot of times, they are. So before you even get into the evidence, first check out your own brain and see if you're at all objective and rational in trying to figure out who might have done this. In this case, I don't give a crap who did it. I do care whether the people are capable of thinking about it in a way that doesn't just make them fall for the next BS trick of the slavesmiths of the world.